Pelosi and more Congress has been really sneaky. This is a flexible benefit spending card. I put out the max I can every year. I have 6 kids, so you can go up to $5,000 a year. I have braces. My youngest son has type 1 diabetes. So you have all these expenses you want to take care of. Well, they're starting to phase out. You can't put in $5,000. They're lowering it down every year. And soon it's going to be at $2,000. Well, that $3,000 that I can't have tax-free, so to speak, at a 30% tax bracket, it's an extra $1,000 out of my pocket. So they're having all these hidden taxes too. So the problem is not enough government, the problem is too much government. This healthcare bill, for example, was not the will of the people. And the polls still are out there. Over 60% of Americans don't want that. This administration, and with this being Dennis and Stephanie Moore, is every time we turn around, they are at our opposition. Border control, over 60% of Americans do not want amnesty. And they're talking about ramming this through. The fact of the matter is, with the border, we need to secure it yesterday. The states' rights. It comes back to the 10th Amendment. Something that's really important to me is the Constitution was not written in an oasis. It was surrounded by the Federalist Papers, and Federalist 45 is something that we here in Kansas need to stand up for. We have an Attorney General in the state, Steve Six, who will not pursue part of that big lawsuit filing the health care bill. We need to recognize the powers of the federal government are enumerated and few. The state of Kansas, you think about it, the governor of Kansas is far more powerful in theory than our senators or our U.S. House reps. But this federal government, we've seen a usurpation of power and a growth that has just beggared the imagination. You think about this, if you look as a factoid, and it kind of comes down to, if you look at the sales of guns, such as like AR-15s and bullets, there's been more sold in 2007 to 2010 and then in the prior 20 years. If you don't think our Second Amendment is under assault, right now, I can tell you this, there's a governor in Illinois, there's a governor in New York, there's a Mayor Bloomberg in New York City that are really upset. This was a great day for our Constitution. The thing that was sad to me is, and Yvonne, you mentioned this, it should have been 9-0. It was 5-4. People, that's where we got to hire. And I say hire because I'm interviewing for this job, people that will fight for you and recognize that the Constitution is my handbook to represent you all in Washington. I used to be a big flat taxer. I said, this sounds good. Everybody pays the same rate. You send the postcard in, you're all good to go. But the problem is, you're still going to have a corporate income tax. What the fair tax does to solve this problem is corporations don't pay taxes. You want to talk about jobs? The big issue of this, Jay, is not jobs. It's lack of jobs. A lot of you have, friends, neighbors, nephews, grandsons, granddaughters, kids that can't find the jobs they want. Why is that? The biggest cost of a job right now is not labor, it's taxes. That's why these companies are leaving the United States in droves. And I can tell you this, let's say, Yvonne, you had $10 billion in the Cayman Islands. I don't care how much of a patriot you are, to repatriate that $10 billion back to the United States, you're not going to give up $3.5 billion of that, because we have a 35% corporate income tax rate, second highest on the planet. Corporations don't pay those taxes. They build it into the cost of their products and the goods and services. Fair tax gets rid of the corporate income tax. Can you imagine the kind of money would come in? It's estimated upwards of $12 trillion would come in over the first 2 years of the fair tax. That being said, it would be a wonderful thing for the economy. You'd get rid of the personal income tax. You'd get rid of the Social Security tax. It would allow us to take home our checks, 100% of your check. That, to me, is a benefit right there. I think we all know, looking at the polls, there's 3 people really effectively running for Kansas 3rd District. It's myself, Ms. Leitner, and Mr. Yoder. The fact of the matter is, those 2 people have voted time and again to raise taxes, gas taxes. We need people here in this state that will represent you all. You need to elect strong legislators. I submit to you that both those individuals are not quite ready for the promotion to the federal government because it requires something that they don't have in them right now. We need to put the government back in the box. My promise to you all is not that I'll give you this program and give you 29-cent, slushies on Tuesdays, but to shrink the size of the federal government and let you all do what you do best with your money. If we shrink the size of government, there'll be less money coming into Washington. The reason I like the fair tax also is the fact that you only pay taxes when you spend money. If you're smart and you buy used, there's no taxes there. No program should be off limits. You mentioned the Department of Education. I was talking with Congressman Linder. Interesting factoid. We have some young people that are recently out of college. If you took the entire Department of Education's budget, every single dime, and gave every graduating senior in 2010 a full ride scholarship. Now talk about hope for someone. Inner city child getting a full scholarship to the state university of their choice, be it South Dakota State University, where I graduated from, or the University of Kansas, you'd have $450 million left over. There's a lot of fat in Washington, D.C.
That, right?
I'm not advocating, I'm just giving it as an example.
I'm just checking.
No, but there's, those are the types of debates that need to be on the table. Right now, that debate is not on the table. There's room for cutting everything. I look at my family budget, and that's kind of how I look to Washington. I run a family business with 6 kids, and if people think otherwise, you know, it's a tough thing. Go ahead. 6 through 20. So I have a junior in college, sophomore in college, a sophomore in high school, 8th grader, 6th grader, and a 2nd grader. So, you know, this is I felt like it was my civic duty because I didn't see a candidate that had my values and my ideals. You look at what's going on in this country, we've gotten to this point by the trained politicians. We've gotten to this point by the trained attorneys. And I think I'm halfway intelligent. My wife might argue otherwise on some days, but that's neither here nor there. But you want somebody that's going to fight for you and tell you what needs to be done. And that, my friend, is priceless. I want you to vote against the other candidates. I want you to vote for me. When it comes to the health care bill, I'm the only candidate that has a health care background for the last 20 years. When I read it, I'll be able to help, you know, pick out what's good and what's bad. But also talk to people in this district, like, you know, Dr. John Sheldon, and talk to the lobbyists that I have right here. Like, for example, you mentioned lawyers. There's a really good lawyer running right now for Secretary of State, and I fully endorse him on the spot. His name is Chris Kobach. Now, Chris Kobach is a good guy, and you know, we also have a Sam Brownback who's also an attorney, and I support him as well. But with regards to Chris Kobach, he's the Michael Jordan of the Constitution. Now, he's a constitutional attorney, so is President Barack Obama. If there's a question about constitutional law, I'm not going to talk to President Obama, but I'm definitely going to talk to Chris Kobach. I want to hit more on this health care bill. One thing I didn't mention was the defensive medicine component of health care. Now, for example, God forbid, but you know, I told you I'm 45. If I start having some, you know, left chest pains and I start tipping over here, hopefully you'll try to catch me. Hopefully you'll all run me over to Olathe Medical Center. They have a really good cardiovascular program there. And they're going to have me come in. They're going to say, okay, 45-year-old guy, drinking caffeine, probably under stress. They're going to work me up for an MI. Normally they could look at you, do a EKG and a chest x-ray. They'd send you on through. But they're going to do troponin levels. They're going to run this test, that test. Do you want to know why? They're scared to death of getting sued. The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons did a study a few years ago. The average family pays about $2,000 a year because of defensive medicine. Multiply that by the 100 million families in this country, you're talking billions and billions of dollars. The medical malpractice, if you could help take care of some of those issues, there'd be more competition. Just for example, buying health insurance like you buy for your car. Wouldn't that be easier if you could pick out what deductible you wanted and just let the free market take care of a lot of these things? That's the problem. This was never about the free market. This was about government takeover medicine. If I can feel free to talk about the story, we're going to a place what Great Britain already has. We're going to a place where our Indian reservations in this great country have. Pine Ridge Indian Reservation up in South Dakota, right on the borders of Shannon and Todd County, #1 and #3 most impoverished counties in the entire country. Life expectancy for a guy there is 41 years of age. The only person alive would be you and you, Peter. All of us, you too, sir, would be gone. And why is that? Because they have socialized medicine there. I brought up England. You've all heard of the National Institute of Clinical Excellence. It's called NICE. I like to joke that NICE isn't nice. There's a life-saving drug out there called Herceptin, which the people over in Great Britain delayed for a few years because it costs too much money. But for example, if you have a lady that has breast cancer, hasn't got out of the barn, non-metastatic disease, you can help them 50% of the time, never have to worry about that disease going on ever again in their lifetime. Well, let me tell you, that disease hits people around 40 years of age. I don't know of a single husband or son, father, that wouldn't shell out $40,000, $50,000 for their mother, their wife, or their grandmother, what have you, to live for an extra 40 years. That's your decision, not the government's decision to pay winners and losers, or pick winners and losers.